guys, it's Gary with the BoxCast podcast. It's good to see you, hear you. I don't know if we can see you. I definitely don't think you. I can't see you. Can you see me? Yes? Okay, great. It's good to see you guys. I've got my friends here with me. What's up, boys?
Hey, what's going on? This is Wade.
This is Josh.
You guys are looking pretty tight. Dude, I love the N64 shirt.
I know. I'm just kind of craving some.
What's your favorite N64 game?
I was just getting ready to ask that.
Probably Star Fox.
Ooh.
Oh, hot take. That's a great game, though.
It is really
You know what's a
fun.
better game? Smash Brothers.
Yeah, it is a better game, but I just had this, I don't know.
I
First
would
time
go-
I played it, I was just blown away.
Listen, I know we're all about production and cameras and video streaming, but listen, the legit hotness. My wife got a Nintendo Switch for her birthday. I didn't know I was gonna be so jealous.
Oh, really?
That
Yeah.
means you have to get one.
Does she let you play it?
Oh yeah,
Well then.
totally. But
I
I
love
bought I bought Smash Brothers specifically for that.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Smash Brothers is like legit the game.
But I think it's better with a group of people. I don't like playing
for
it by
sure.
myself.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but you can
I
play
guess there's
online.
different categories, but yeah.
Dang.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Anyway, we're back at the BoxCast podcast. Welcome back from the N64 podcast. We're back here. It's good to have you guys around. So listen, we have had some incredible episodes up to this point. This is episode 4. I
Wow.
can't believe it. We're there.
We're doing it.
This is gonna be great, and I'm completely stoked about our topic today. Josh, this was your topic, man.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to talk about it because I think it's something everybody secretly goes through, but it's also like weird and awkward and everybody has to get good at, but it's really we're just talking about being on camera and going through the weird phases of being on camera, whether you have an in-person audience or you're by yourself in your attic,
Yeah.
or even if you're on a podcast, and getting comfortable with being on camera, do's and don'ts, and getting comfortable with yourself, really.
This is gonna turn into
It's
a
getting
Dr.
deep.
Phil
It's
session.
gonna get
isn't
yeah, maybe a little. Yeah, we might be your psychiatrist today.
it? There's no bed or table or chair for me to lay on or couch for me to lay on right now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna work that way. But yeah, so getting comfortable on camera. So like, I know for the sake of the podcast and video and how we do things, you've been on camera quite a bit though. I mean,
Yeah,
you've
and-
done a lot on camera.
yeah, and kind of just out of necessity, because when I first started at BoxCast, I was like the only video guy, and it just helps to have a face to like a video,
Right.
instead of just voiceovering it or whatever. But it's definitely not. It definitely doesn't come naturally necessarily.
Would you say
It's-
you have a face for radio?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
I have
But
a face for podcasting, so I understand.
Yeah, exactly. But the weird thing about it is, like, you think you're not going to be nervous, whether I'm doing like a live webinar or a recorded video, and then I start talking and I look at the lens and I'm like, oh no, and then you do get nervous, or
Yeah,
when we do
had-
countdown timers,
Right. I've had full blown like mini panic attacks mid webinar.
Shut up.
It was one of them.
Me
One of them.
too,
I
dude.
was. It was like 5 minutes in. I was sweating. I was like, I almost was to the point of, I don't think I'm going to be able to finish this with Josh. And then I calmed down. I just relaxed. I'm like, it's okay.
Did you catch this on camera at all?
I don't know which which webinar it was, but there was one of them where I legit like I was freaking myself out mid webinar, and I was like,
There's something just
there's something
really
where sometimes like
cold
you
about it.
and that was probably like 2 or 3 years into being in webinars and stuff, and you still have those moments where you're like, oh crap.
Do you still have those moments?
Not as much, no. Now
Me-
I feel like it's definitely better, but
I'm more comfortable if I have a in-person audience, but whenever there's like a 10-second countdown and then I realize I'm live and there's no one in the room,
You freeze.
but I know people are watching. Yeah, I just like, and I've had that happen to me before too when I'm by myself, because you're carrying the whole thing alone.
right.
Which is why it helps to have like co-hosts, like what we're doing now is way more naturally comfortable.
Mm.
But when you are by yourself, or say you're like a pastor or an influencer or something like that, like, and it's just you're a solo act, there's something really daunting about looking at the lens and delivering your lines.
So you don't think like YouTubers, influencers, people on TikTok, video, YouTube, whatever, you don't think that they have that problem? Do you think they have that problem?
I think everybody does.
Really?
Yeah, and I think the key to it is just getting used to it.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty comfortable on camera. I mean, you can ask Kevin. Like, I've never had that problem. I've never felt an anxiety about being on camera. I've never really felt anything other than, man, I need to lose some poundage. But outside of that, I could go all day on a camera. I wouldn't have any problem.
That's true. But there's always that like really sobering moment when you go and look at the recording or watch the past recording of a live thing and you hear yourself and you see yourself and you're like, that's what I look and sound like?
Well, that's post though. I mean, we're not just talking about.
Oh, I know. Well, if you watch the recording of the live version. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. I've never had that problem. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm gonna straight up like this topic.
Well, you're just a baller.
That's right. I am a baller. This topic to me is like, it's a great topic because I feel like there are a lot of people who do it and have a problem with it, or, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we're gonna go over some really cool ideas and tips and do's and don'ts and the fun stuff about being on camera.
Right. Right.
I have never had this problem, so I'm kind of interested into your complex issues. Like, what gives you like outside of just self-conscious? Like, is it just
Well, I was going to say, I think for the live stuff, Josh, and this is more just me. So Josh and I, since we are video people and we video edit, usually when you're editing a video, you hide a lot of stuff or you hide a lot of that awkwardness or you cut something because it's like that didn't come off correctly. And I think for me, it's, like when it's live or like this, it's just however you say it. And you can't really go back and retract and like restart something because it's going to look really weird if you like just jump cut or whatever. So I think for me, it's kind of that. Sometimes you just get anxious because you're like, I hope I'm saying the right thing. I hope this is making sense because in my mind it makes sense. But when you're just kind of off the riff talking, like right now I'm just kind of rambling. And I'm like, am I rambling too much? Whatever.
No.
Should we just get into our first topic? But it's like,
Well,
no,
I mean,
we're explaining something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just, like I said, I've never had this problem. So I just think whether I'm by myself or I have a crew with me, a team, it's more of just coming up with the stuff to talk about and just talking about it. Like,
Right.
Like if you're supposed to make a 3.5 minute video or something and it turns out to be 8 minutes, I mean, there's no really a big issue there. I've always felt comfortable in conversating with other people and looking at the camera and talking to people on my own. So I'm just kind of interested. What's one of the ways, or what is the primary way that you guys have overcome that?
For me, it's just repetition. If I go like a couple months without doing a video or something, or just like based on the schedule of our productions, I'm just not on camera, and then I have to do it again for the first time in a while, I'm like cold. I'm just not warmed up to it. I'm not comfortable with it and used to it. And we interview people a lot and they experience the same thing. They're just not used to it. I think that's the biggest thing. So doing it, if you do it the first time and you're like, I never want to do that again, just give it another shot. Like rip the Band-Aid off the first time, but then like just understand that it's going to get a little bit easier the more you do it. Cause you're going to stop consciously knowing there's a camera on you. That's the biggest thing. This is why, to me, it's so daunting, is because you're aware of it. You're totally aware that you're being recorded and watched. But whereas, like in your day-to-day life,
you're still
when you're having conversations, you are, but you're not as like conscious of it.
That's true. So you're saying that the conscious element is really what brings that, makes that apart.
Literally, just the thought, "Oh, I'm on camera," in itself. And you can't stop thinking about it, is kind of what trips you up too.
Interesting. Is it the same for you, Wade? Like, is it just repetition?
Yeah, I think it's just repetition. And I might be jumping ahead, but like, when we do like our tech tip videos or we do a feature release video or something like that, and you see us on camera, usually how that process works is we have like a teleprompter in front of us. Now, I'm not saying you need a teleprompter for everything. Like for a podcast, we don't have a teleprompter.
Is that a guy just holding up cue cards?
Yeah, no, we have this really cool thing. It's from Glide Gear, $200. I think it's $200, and you use an iPad, and it like mirrors it up, and you stick the camera in the teleprompter, so it looks like we're looking right at the camera. I mean, watch any of our videos, and you'll see us looking at the camera, but most of the time we're reading a teleprompter. But what we do before we start recording is we just did one yesterday. I read it 4 times through the teleprompter without recording because I just wanted to get a feel, warm up, be on camera. Like that first time you read it is never usually the best time, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I did it 4 or 5 times without even recording, and then we still recorded, and I still did it another 4 times. But by that 9th time of reading like a script, I was like, oh, this is...
You're a master.
You're pretty much a master, and it's really cool to watch Josh do it, because Josh has been doing it much longer than me. He sometimes knows... He gets in a rhythm where he doesn't need the script for certain paragraphs. So the teleprompter will pass it, and he can go back and say it without the teleprompter script. I'm not there yet, but I see Josh do it quite a bit.
All that is repetition.
And it's just practice for him.
It's just like repetition over and over. And you don't have to use a teleprompter. Some people just have like show notes or bullets, and you can use things like that. Eventually, you obviously get to this point where like you're in the ministry, so you've talked in front of people a lot.
Oh,
so
a ton,
that's part of the repetition thing too. But eventually, you get to the point where you've done it so many times and you know the material so well that you don't need it. But I think people assume when they watch like content creators on YouTube and they watch pastors and profound speakers, they're like they've just got what it takes. And I've just noticed, like, because I'm pretty comfortable public speaking, and it still trips me up if I don't do it a lot.
Well, public speaking is very difficult.
It's really
very
hard.
Very difficult outside of like doing a live stream or a webinar or recording, because that's a form of public speaking, but that's not like, I mean, it's a virtual form, right? I mean, I'm
actually more comfortable public speaking than I am talking on camera.
Really?
Because you can feed off an energy of an audience.
That's what I was
Whereas
gonna
you're
say,
looking at a lens, or there's like this virtual audience that you don't see or hear. It's just weird. It's foreign a little bit.
So should we put Kevin behind one of these cameras just for you?
Yeah.
And then he could just be so that he can
we'll just form an audience.
Yeah. No, because if we did that, then I would always just feel terrible. So.
Right. No, I took probably 2 years of public speaking classes in college for ministry reasons. And the number one thing, and I'm going to be honest, they never tell you, well, just imagine them in their underwear. That's a terrifying thought. I'm not going to lie.
That would just mess me up even more.
Yeah, that's the worst thing to tell somebody.
Yeah.
No. But no, I took about 2 years of public speaking classes to feel comfortable in speaking in front of. Now, don't get me wrong, I still feel a little awkward when I'm like in front of people and they're, you got 150, 250, 350 eyes looking back at you. You're like, whoa. But it's just something kicks in and you just take it through. So for you guys, I mean, practice and repetition, especially with camera work, makes a whole lot of sense. And so,
and it's a little bit weird too with the repetition thing, but it's gonna be really hard to do at first. But watching yourself and seeing the way you are is a really good way to fix some of your mannerisms.
So, but watching yourself and seeing how the way you are and not over criticizing yourself.
Yeah, not being hard on yourself. Just trying to. There's the first phase is getting used to seeing yourself and just understanding this is how I am. There's nothing wrong with me. Like being comfortable, something like that.
Yeah, because I'm gonna watch this back and be like, bro, we got a lot of work.
But then it's just doing little things like, oh, I actually like hang on to my arm, or I like pull up my ear a lot. Like, why do I do that? Or I have these nervous like understanding those and just being very like objective with yourself and just being like, okay, I'll try to fix that.
I always thought you were just telling people to steal third when you were doing that here on camera. You're like,
you know the best example of this too, and it was with myself. I think it was the first video for BoxCast that you brought me into, and it was how to add. We called it color commentary, the video initially, but how to add announcer audio to your streams.
Yeah. And
I'll put the video on screen. You can see me. I'm sitting next to Josh, and I'm not smiling. He's talking, and I'm just like this. And I'm not smiling.
Oh, we gotta find this video.
As soon as I watched it, I was like, "Oh crap! I need to smile." Like when if you're doing like a dual thing with someone, a webinar or anything. If you're not talking, just at least smile. Don't look miserable, because I looked like I was being held hostage, and Josh made me do this video. So like,
I literally made him do it.
So like, but that's something I learned just the first time you had me on camera. I was like, oh crap! Like I can't look dead inside on camera.
Even if you are dead inside.
Dead inside. They tell you in public speaking classes, like when you're doing something like an interview style like that, there's like 2 of you or more doing interviews, to always focus on the person speaking because it adds interest. So, like, if you got the second person beside you and you look over when they're talking, it adds interest to that. So,
it does. Yeah, because it involves them in the conversation almost. Whereas if they're just sitting there, like, while they're not talking, like...
That's literally what I was doing.
Just totally deadpanning at the camera, like...
Yeah.
But, you know, and I've done a webinar or two with you already, and we've done a virtual webinar, and it's always the same thing. It's like looking over and just making sure. But
yeah. So and the other thing that we do when we do webinars is we do like warm-ups. We do rehearsals. I was just getting ready to
say that. Yeah.
Nothing crazy. We don't like script it, but we have the conversation. We have like a 20-minute conversation.
Well, we did that with this.
We run through it. Yeah, we run through it very lightly, just so we're not like hopping into it completely cold. Right. Just like it's just a warm-up before the workout.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that makes sense. So you would say have the discussion prior to, and then just do a dress rehearsal prior. So does it make you feel better, like, when you do those things? Because, like, is it because you get more comfortable? I understand that, but, like, do you just feel better because you feel like you worked out all the kinks, or do you just, like, immediately after you've done that, you still jump into, fear factor mode?
It does make me feel better as long as I do it. As long as I do it close enough to the start time of the broadcast.
Okay.
It makes me feel better because then I don't start with this really cold, like, oh my gosh, we're live feeling. And then I'm just more comfortable with it.
That's why we didn't have our call meeting until Monday of this week, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because when we were doing it before, we were discussing the topic way too far away from our actual record date.
And Josh's brain doesn't work like that.
No, my brain doesn't work.
Yeah. That's cool, though. I mean, that's how it works.
Wade and I ran track in college, so this, for most of the audience, this may not make sense. But before we did any races, we'd have to do like a 2-mile warm-up just to get our muscles into the rhythm of it. You do the same thing when you get out before you get on camera. You have to do a few takes of something, or even when we record tech tips videos, I've always noticed by the third time I run through it, I'm like, okay, I'm in it now. And there's something to be said for like working that mental muscle of presenting and working that mental muscle of bringing energy to something.
Right, and hitting your
that's
checkpoints.
That's a real thing.
Yeah, and
you don't just wake up with it,
I do.
Oh, well. Can't all be you.
I wake up with excellence. So.
Yeah, you do.
You do. Actually, I've seen that. That's a real thing for you.
It really is.
I believe it 100%.
You call Gary any time of the day. He's happy and excited.
I just glow. Like, it's just awesome.
I would say a real example for me, too, like with the rehearsal and the practicing is like when we do webinars, I prefer, let's say we have a 2 o'clock start time for a webinar. I prefer to be pretty much ready by 10 or 11 and go through the whole webinar. And then if we have to, go through it again. I remember very particular, me and Joe Kernick, when we did the sports webinar, the first time we did it, Josh and Christy were there, and they kind of looked at us and they were like, that wasn't the best you'd ever have done. Let's try it one more time. And the second time, but that first time is just working out the kinks,
right?
Working out, like, that was Joe and I's first webinar together. We're good friends, but like first webinar together. So just working out like the transitions from slides and handoffs and stuff. And then the second time, I was like, okay, that's pretty good. You think you guys are ready for the live time. And then when we went live, it was like very clear, like, well, I'm going to say this and then it's your turn, Joe. And like, we just casually pass it off. So
it's going to sound really dumb, but you're doing two things at once. And I'm not great at multitasking, but you're doing two things at once. You're giving people information, like in a webinar, like you were describing. Yeah. The first time you did it, you had to just give the information. And then the second thing you're doing at the same time is trying to bring energy and enthusiasm to it and get people on board with you and excited. Those are two very hard things to do at the same time, honestly. And when you talk about technical information, it's really hard to do because we're like HDMI, SDI, and then you have to bring flavor to that. So
right, you're making a cake at this point. You're making a cake. Once you get that cake out of the oven, that's your first go, and then you're gonna add everything pretty on top.
Yeah. Get the sugar and you have to do that second part because if you don't do that, then you'll never have an audience.
Okay, so since we're on the topic of cake, chocolate or vanilla?
Oh,
I have to go vanilla.
I would go chocolate.
I would go I don't eat cake.
Oh, okay.
So I hate frosting, but I like cake.
I'm a pie guy.
Oh, okay.
I like pie. Pie is good. Pie is amazing. So, since we're talking about camera, right, and we're on camera and we're live recording.
This camera,
that camera, this one.
Yeah,
that's actually a shout out to First We Eat or First We Feast.
Yeah, hot ones.
Yeah, hot ones. I'm gonna say that. I love that.
Hot
Sean
ones.
Evans, if you ever watch our stuff,
he's a great example.
We love you a lot because you've taught us a lot about what it's like to produce this out and do this.
He's a great example because, and maybe Wade will throw up a clip or something, but he does so much research going into those interviews.
Well, and he's got a whole team that does it too. But
and you can tell, like, even with him, I'm sure his first couple of times doing that, they were probably really awkward.
You can go back and watch the first Strata episodes. I mean, they were a little, I mean, his whole team, his whole production crew have just really kind of kicked that out.
And he's so good at interviewing now because he just does it all the time.
Well, and Joe Rogan as well. I mean, if you want to talk podcasts and the being on camera thing, Joe Rogan does a great job with that too.
Yeah, and he probably doesn't have to think twice about it now. But I think you look at someone like that and you're like, when you go to get on camera or do a podcast and you're not supernatural, it's easy to think to yourself, oh, well, I just don't have it. Or like, oh, I don't know, something's wrong with me. Or
so am I supernatural then?
You must be, you just must have what it takes. But then just understanding like it gets better with time,
Yeah.
and
So
you just do it over and over. And
the
then
more you do it, the longer you do it, the
Yeah.
more repetitions. Yeah.
the more you look back on and do the hard part, which is watching yourself and seeing what you could fix and what you do and don't like. And this is not like to say, oh, I just don't like the way I look. It's not a self-conscious thing. It's just about actually like looking at your mannerisms.
Well, you don't want to be nitpicky about the way you look or what you're wearing, or if,
Yeah.
like in my case, I always look about how much poundage I could lose. But like, it's
Dude, you're always gonna find something.
You're
I'm
always
like,
gonna
why
find
does my
something,
nose
right.
look like that? And then it's like, that has nothing to do with this. Nobody's even thinking about that.
We don't want to talk about your nose, okay? but yeah, you're always going to find something to nitpick about yourself.
Yeah.
It's more about finding the one or two things that you can modify, like over time. And I'll just give you an example. Over time, when I've done video recordings and podcast recordings, I've learned, and you probably have noticed it as I do it here. Like I've learned to learn how to shift my body so that my mouth is always in front of my microphone, right? It's always that way. Or my hands never go below the table.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? My hands.
I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, my hands are not below the table. My hands are always on the table.
Yeah.
They're always up here, or I'm leaning like this. They're always in view.
Yeah.
And it's just something I've nitpicked on myself, being like, this doesn't look properly. It looks kind of jank in my opinion. Let's clean it up. Let's put it up here. So
My hands are below the table right now.
yeah, but it looks
now
different.
they're
Now
not.
they're not. That was magical.
It's
Listen,
like the Talladega Nights thing. Sometimes I feel like that.
right.
So talking about hands,
Right.
I was trying to make these videos pre being a videographer here at BoxCast, where I was in customer support. I worked at BoxCast, but I wanted to kind of try to like flex my creativity and make behind the scenes videos for virtual conferences. And in the first, I think I made 2 videos. Every single time you see me, I'm going like this with my hands. Like I'm being I'm going crazy. And like I'd send it to my friends, and I just sent like, hey, can you give me some feedback? And one of my best friends was like, dude, you gotta stop talking with your hands that much. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, like you're like he's like, dude, you're going crazy. And like, so again, you don't know that, but it's something you can work on. And I know now in tech tips, like when I get excited, I throw my hands in there, but usually I'm pretty calm. But again, it's just a thing where you have to do it, and you have to just keep trying it and keep changing the way you do things to then you'll get in a little flow of everything.
One thing I used to do a lot was I would like look all over the place and like roll my eyes and like move my head way too much because I was excited to be recording, so all that like natural energy and nervousness would like
floating out somewhere.
Yeah, it would show up in weird ways, but I'd be like looking around or just doing strange things. Or I used to do this thing where I would like kind of like pinch at my hands because I was like so nervous that I was like pinching at them. And then I just learned, why don't you just fold if you're feeling a certain way, just fold your hands. And then when you have something to say it, and then go back to just holding it like that. Just little tweaks. It's always like a little tweaking of things. I mean, it helps.
I mean, it's all good stuff. I mean, the thing is like people want, like I talk with my hands too. I mean, and you've got to do a little motion with some stuff.
Yeah.
You've got to be, but do you feel like that is a way for people to like project out their nervousness? So it's fidgeting almost, right?
Yeah.
Like they're grabbing a pencil or pen, or they have a rubber band or something, and they're fidgeting.
Yeah.
So their attention's not drawn on that, but they can focus on that. So it's like a focusing tool, right?
It is, but the person watching is also focusing on the fidgeting.
Right, it's on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've done that too in the past, so I totally understand. But it's more like you guys said, it's repetition. It's not criticizing, it's critiquing.
Right, it's critiquing.
Yes.
And the more you'll do that, the easier it gets to be objective about yourself.
Okay, so
the more you critique yourself, the easier it gets, where you're not just being hard on yourself, but you can just watch something and be like, oh, no, that's how I look and sound. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with me as a person. There's just these like little things that could be distracting that I should fix.
So do you think that like part of that talks about energy?
Yeah.
Like, do you think energy, if you're lacking energy, or if you have a lot of energy, do you think that is a detractor or a positive?
Yeah, I think yeah, 100%.
So
it means more than anybody even realizes why they like someone versus why they don't like something, or it's the reason somebody will stick with a conversation or a monologue compared to somebody that's just delivering the information because it's their job and their boss told them they wanted to make a video.
Okay, do you know what you're reminding me of? My kid, and I'm going to give you some context because it's hilarious. My kid loves to watch movies in the van when we go places. So we have a DVD player in the van, obviously, right? And the one thing she's watching is Monsters University. And so they get kicked out of the university program for scaring, and they go into Scream Can design. And you just doing that is what reminded me. Welcome to the wonderful world of Scream Can Design, the rich history of Scream Can Design. Like, that's exactly what you reminded me of.
Yeah, that's a real, and that makes me think of the college professors that I did like or didn't like based on the energy they brought to the subject. And if they were into it, I would be more into it.
Absolutely.
But what's weird about that is you could be really passionate about something and not come off like it. And that's where sometimes you do have to put a little bit of extra icing on the cake, you know.
So are you adding more nitro to the octane when you do that? Like, is that something you guys recognize? And then
I used to have to be very conscious about it.
Yeah,
like when we're recording each other, I'll be like, all right, Wade, I know it doesn't feel natural, but just go over the top. If you're having a low energy day, you have to overshoot your energy a little bit.
Here's a can of 5 energy.
Yeah, or we'll do a whole take where we're like 10 out of 10 energy. Go nuts. Like, go give it everything you got for this one take. And usually what happens is, like, this just happened yesterday. Like, my first sentence was way too much, but then I, like, took it from 10 out of 10 to, like, an 8 out of 10, and that's where I needed to be the rest of the video. So I, like, you say, like, just go crazy hard, and then you go hard for, like, maybe the first, like, 10 seconds, but really you kind of calm back down, but to a good level.
It's a nice little life hack. Just overdo it at the beginning. And the reason you have to do that is because when you're presenting to an audience in person, you get their energy from the audience to keep you going. So it's easy to just naturally be energetic. When you're on camera, you lose steam so quickly because it's just you in a room. So that's why you almost have to overcompensate and be like, "What's up, everybody?" I'm not gonna blow out the mic, but you know.
No, I like that though. You
have to, because there's no one in the room to feed you that, so you have to feed it yourself.
And when we film with each other, we're pretty good and pretty honest about saying, "Hey, you need to bring more energy.
I need to come
over
more often."
Because it's just we've worked with each other for so long. But if you're either filming someone on camera or you're someone on camera, see if someone can sit behind the camera and just offer you, like, hey, do I have energy? Do I look excited and stuff like that? Because there will be times where you're excited to start, and then you get to the middle and you're kind of just reading. If you're doing a teleprompter, you're just reading it. You're not really, like, excited about it.
Yeah.
So you just got to bring energy.
And the topics sometimes are already, like, boring by default, so you have to give it a little gas. It's like
that's what
the difference between you being excited about XLR or not. That's a really generalized term, but the difference between you being excited about it or not is just how much energy I give into it, because it's by default to some people gonna be like a snooze fest.
Well, we've had that conversation in the past about, like, I remember when we all did our webinar about Wi-Fi versus Ethernet.
Yeah,
which I still think is one of the best podcasts, one of the best webinars
we
did because it was fun.
Yeah,
but we talked about extensively about this is a boring topic.
Yeah.
How do we make this a little bit easier to digest, but also so it's more engageable, right? So people can say, I actually learned something, and that was pretty dope how they told us, right? Like making sure we had those funny quips and stuff. So I can totally see that. But and going back to the information, you said it pretty much clearly, but do you think it's important that to feel more comfortable on camera that you have more of a working knowledge of the information you're talking about, or is it always better just to kind of gain a little bit and just kind of dump wherever you can?
What do you think?
I would say, unless you're like the host of a show, like let's say your company or whatever you're doing, you're the host and you can read a teleprompter and you can really bring the energy and people can add graphics and stuff like that. I think in our situation, we kind of have to be decently knowledgeable about it, because we get asked questions directly about the video, or people comment on YouTube and they're like, what's this? And it's like, that's Josh and I responding to you. So we need to know. We don't want to like pull other people in to be like, this is what this means.
So if I were just to sit down and record a video, if I were just to sit down and record something, it would be better for me to have working knowledge of that thing I'm discussing. Or would it be easier, like in this kind of scenario where we're sitting, we don't I mean, we do our research for topic notes. Like,
Right.
there's the things that we want to learn and know, and we hope people want to as well. So we know this information, but we're not filtering through, page after page after page of notes
No.
to like know exactly what we're talking about. We're just hitting points and we're just discussing this. So that's my question: is like, what is better?
That's a good question, because you're like, is it better to be an expert and learn how to be a presenter, or is it better to just be a great presenter and kind of
learn how to be an expert?
Well,
or
I think the problem is people
yeah.
are going to see through someone who doesn't know what they're talking about.
But do you think that
if they know what they're talking about, if the audience member knows what they're talking about, they're going to see through it. But that's tough, though, because that's a good point. Because if someone's just like, you know what, this is not my thing, I don't want to do it.
Right.
I don't think you should twist their arm to the point where they're just like a wreck thinking about having to
you put him in that position already.
Oh, I do that all the time.
He's like, wait, you're getting on camera.
Yeah,
okay.
That's my favorite thing to do. But we have a different dynamic.
I'm gonna wreck you, Wade.
Yeah. I mean, if someone really cares about a certain topic, and
I think there has to
they
be
just never want to have an audience, and I don't think you can make them. And
so do you think you guys are subject matter experts?
Yeah, at this point.
Yeah,
for a
and
very
live streaming,
niche
I'd say.
specific thing.
Well,
Yeah.
in live streaming or some
Yeah.
video.
I think you have to have
That's what I'm talking about. But I always call myself a really smart dumb guy, because I can just like figure. I know just enough to get myself in trouble, which also helps me being excited about presenting on certain topics sometimes. Because if I just had figured that thing out, I'm more excited about it than if I've known it for like 200 years, or
200 years,
not 200 years, just like say I just have something beaten into my brain and it's like a duh thing. It's harder for me to get excited about talking about it because I didn't just learn it. It's not a new revelation. It's like, oh, well.
But it's not a new revelation to you.
Yeah, I know. And that's what's hard is sometimes like something so well in the back of your head. It's like me trying to explain how to plug HDMI into a TV to someone. I would not be like, guess what you need to do? I wouldn't have. But if I just discovered that thing, I would bring a little bit more energy to that because I was excited I just figured it out.
Hey, guys, I just found out this new handy dandy HDMI.
So sometimes like we pick video topics on things that are just new and exciting to us because that excitement carries through naturally. We don't have to like force it.
I think there has to be some passion behind what you're going to talk about on camera.
You really do?
I think you have to like kind of care about it.
You really do think that you have to have passion behind what you're talking about?
I think so. I think it helps you.
Yeah,
I think it helps.
I think some people are naturally good presenters and they'll do a good job.
Yeah,
but yeah, like you.
I just wake up with excellence, like I told you. I glow in the middle of the night. My wife has to put eye blinders on just because of how much I glow.
I think in some scenarios, if you're an organization that's interested in having a host, there's legitimate reason to also hire out for that, or to find someone that is like they've just got it and like they're comfortable with it.
And it depends on a time frame too. Like if you're an organization and you want to start making videos, maybe promoting your product, or you want to, let's say you're a bakery and you want to do like, this is how we make our bread, or whatever it is. It's like you could, if you would want to do that next week, then maybe you should find someone that's like local in your area who's good on camera and be like, hey, this is what we want you to talk about. We're going to have like the chef with you too. Mm-hmm. And you guys just riff and talk, but you're going to be the main person.
Yeah.
You don't work here, but
you're just hiring a host.
You're just hiring a host.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could work in some cases.
I think that would work in some cases. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the subject matter and passion thing. I still think that you cannot be I still think that you could not have passion for specific topics or for specific things that you're talking about and still bring passion to those topics.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
me too.
How many times do you think like Dr. Phil or Steve Harvey or I'm going to really date myself here, Ricky Lake. I mean, if you want to go really back into the 90s, right? Like all of these talk show hosts who do these talk shows, there's got to be at least one opportunity there where they're like, I don't want to talk about this. Like, but they still bring a passion to that subject.
That's a good point.
That's a really good point.
Right? Yeah. So I'm like torn between the two. Like, I don't consider myself a subject matter expert by any means on anything. I just consider myself extremely well informed. And because of that, I do not waste my time, and sorry to say it this way, with things that I don't feel I have knowledge enough about. so I don't pour a passion into those. But it also swings back around to the same concepts that if I'm going to talk about something, I at least have to know enough about it, and I at least have to be well enough to present it.
Right.
And even if it's something as minuscule or as mundane as HDMI cables versus SD cables, right? SDI cables, that information may be mundane to me, but if I present it in a way that somebody else is going to see it and be like, that's totally awesome, then I've done my job.
Right.
Yeah. And imagine how everybody gets excited about learning something new. So when they learn,
it just depends.
I mean, when they get an aha moment, you've you've given them some energy about it too.
So should that be the premise for any kind of video that we do? Maybe that should be the driving factor to getting comfortable on camera, is that you really just want to present something really good to somebody who can get that aha moment.
So I have actually thought about that before I've recorded something. I kind of picture the person in my head who I want to receive the information. And then that's sometimes how I script the videos, or if I'm live, that's how I make the call sheet for it. As I think about them, I think about one person that it would mean so much to them to get that information. And HDMI versus SDI, for example, I picture the person that needs to know the difference, and they go on YouTube, they watch it, and they're like, "Oh, thank you so much. Now I know what decision to make." Yeah, and then that also helps you kind of get excited about it too.
Well, because people are creatures of habit. They're, especially when it comes to YouTube or any kind of video creators, people will tell you what they think.
Yeah.
And so if you get positive feedback about how you presented that, even if it's the most mundane thing in the world, you could talk about shoelaces or green paint drying. And as long as you're presenting it well and somebody learns something out of it, people will respond.
And I would say too, if you want to start making videos, or your organization starts to want to make videos, think about those times you personally have those aha moments for things that get you excited and be like, wait. And then do a little research and be like, why can't I find a video on this? And that's your video.
Right.
Of oh, I got really excited because we learned, I'm trying to think of a past video, but we really, one thing that's really exciting us lately is the Hollyland wireless transmitters for intercom for things. We turned them on, plugged them in, they were super easy, and we were like, we should make a video because there are videos out there for it, but just showing it is that easy, just reinforcing it's cool.
Right. Just using the pieces.
And we had that moment of just, holy crap, this isn't that hard.
Or in the last episode when he introduced that camera to us, we were like, what?
Oh yeah, so
you almost want to
you're referencing Steven from PTZ Optics.
Steven from PTZ Optics. He showed us the simple track too, and it followed people, and we were blown away. And then you almost want to harness that little bit of excitement and then try to carry it into your script or your delivery or your presentation or whatever it is.
So inspiration is also key to being comfortable on camera.
Yeah, because it's easy if you talk about the same stuff over and over again, you're gonna lose momentum for it. You're like, oh, why am I still talking about this?
Right.
Can I move on to things that excite me?
Inspiration drives passion. Passion drives content. Content drives creation. Creation drives your knowledge.
Look at that. That should be a PowerPoint slide.
Is that about accurate, would you say?
Kevin, we're
going to have Kevin design that
for
us.
Kevin, we're going to need an infographic
with chevrons, the pointed chevrons that are going from one thing to the next.
And I'm going to need them in BoxCast colors so they all look dope.
And it should look nice and corporate.
So we could carry this whole conversation over into the same concepts for podcasting.
Yeah, although this is a little easier.
Well, but that's because we're also recording it, video way as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been doing podcasting for a long time, and I love it. And simplicity is key with podcasting because I'm not on camera. So, but that's where it also becomes doubly hard because your excitement has to be heard, not seen.
Yeah, right.
Your content knowledge has to be heard, not seen. So all of these things can be the same when it comes to a microphone as well. Not just having the right piece of equipment, but using the knowledge you have or the research you've done to show that you have excitement in your voice and that you're like, this thing is great. You guys should try it. And getting that working practice, repetition, using a teleprompter, which would be way easier because nobody's seeing you use a teleprompter. So but that's the thing. I think if we jump back to that, reading off of a script for me is people do way better when they're able to feel free in their
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing.
If you're
with
gonna do
podcasting.
that, if you're gonna read off a script, you have to practice reading and bringing energy at the same time.
Right.
Which is kind of, it's a whole.
Well, you're like
different thing.
basting a turkey. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
You
time.
have to layer it
You've
on.
gotta layer it in,
There's
man.
times for a teleprompter, and then definitely times not for a teleprompter. Like the quickest example, times for a teleprompter is like, hey, I want to explain this kind of complicated topic quickly. So you write it all down, and you're like, I just want it to be a 2 or 3 minute video,
right.
Because you could ramble forever about it. Times when not to use a teleprompter is like, I would say a live webinar is like, you're just gonna let it run, and if you're not used to it, you're gonna get behind, and then you're gonna be confused, and if you don't have a way to control it, it's like. When you're doing longer form content, I think I would stay away from the teleprompter and stick to bullet points or stick to I have little notes here on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Like just
I've
stuff
got
like
one-
that
yeah,
is
what I'm
just
doing here.
that's going to be way better for you for long form content.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Well, listen, if any of you guys out there in the BoxCast podcast, sphere of universe, you guys start doing your own stuff, let us know. We'd love to see it.
Oh yeah, and if you want our feedback
I knew you were going to say that. I
about
left it
how
to you.
awkward you feel about yourself,
If you want
then tell me,
criticism,
because I'll tell you what's going on.
If you want critiquing or criticism from Josh Clements, his email is. No, I'm just kidding.
You can email me. Anyway, no, because I think what's important is for people to understand, like, it's awkward for everybody. Like, it's not just awkward.
If you feel weird about it, somebody else is feeling weird or has
and
felt weird
seeing
about
yourself is super weird from a third person perspective, and hearing yourself is super weird from a
I know.
third person perspective.
I know.
And some people complain more about hearing themselves than seeing themselves.
I remember when we first started our podcast recordings, just going through the motions, you're like, man, that sounds weird. Why do I sound like that?
Yeah,
I remember
why
you
am
doing
I
that.
so nerdy about everything?
Why do I
Dull.
sound? Why do I sound like this? Like,
Yeah.
energy, man, energy.
But you have to get you also just have to get used to being objective about yourself.
Yeah.
And like getting used to being weirded out by it.
for sure. Well, I mean that it all makes sense. I mean, being comfortable on camera definitely is going to take time. It's going to take repetition and practice. It's going to take you knowing your material, having passion, creativity for what you're doing. I think the biggest tip that I could give anybody who's like just starting out doing this, and whether you're live streaming it or you're like live stream upload recording, or just doing podcasting, is don't quit. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Your first, like, I know we've had talks about certain things that we do in projects. We're like, oh, this is not going to be very good. Like, we're so concerned about this one aspect or another aspect being perfect. And we're just like, we just got to keep going.
Mhm.
Right? So don't quit. Don't stop. Keep moving. Your beginnings are never going to be what your endings look like. You can go back and look at, and again, Sean Evans, with First We Feast, you can go back and look at their early episodes that they had, and legit, they're in a room recording, right?
Yeah.
And then they got better and better over time. And that's the thing. It's over time, everything can go. It's like a fine wine, gentlemen. Over time, it gets better. So just keep going. Don't make that decision to stop early just because you can't get it right or you don't think it looks right.
And you're going to have presentations that it's like your golf game. Like it's going to be like some days you don't care and you're doing great. And some days you care too much and you're kind of falling apart, And that happens to me too, like on topics that I'm like, I got to get this right. And then like my delivery, I'm like so stiff. Like I remember the first podcast episode we recorded and we're only 4 in now, but I feel so much better than the first one because I was like, this is a podcast. I was like, I'm on a podcast. I am being recorded on a podcast. I need to do this right.
We also got you your medication from the doctor.
Oh yeah. Then we got me fixed.
We got you fixed up, buddy. You're doing
But
well
that is
right
the
now.
thing. You're super hyper aware of the fact you're being recorded.
I think that's it. You're just being super hyper aware.
Yeah.
So if I give you another piece of advice, listeners and viewers, don't be hyper aware. Just do your thing.
Stop thinking about it.
Just be you in the podcast or in the video recording. Just do your thing.
Right. I've got some advice too. I've got some great do's and don'ts that
let's hit those to close this out.
I just want to mention some. So one, I would say this is not something you think of, but I'll give 2 examples of why you need it. If you're doing a live webinar or you're doing something more long form, that's mostly live. That can't be edited. Like here, if something goes wrong, like a light going out, we can cut that out and jump right back in. But if you're doing something live, you hope you don't have to use this, but do have a we'll be right back slide or we're having technical issues slide, just in case something happens. Like, to give you an example, we were doing a webinar and we were feeding Josh's laptop back into the webinar, and so they were getting double audio. And it was like, and we were trying to do too much, Josh and I. It was like around Christmas. This is 3 or 4 years ago, and it was a big hot mess. But we weren't ready to pause and try to fix things and come back.
Yeah.
So we had nothing we could do. The other example I'll give is we were streaming a college graduation. This was 2 or 3 years ago as well. And we actually had someone faint in the audience. Not us, but like someone fainted in the audience, and they stopped the graduation. And we were live streaming it. We're not going to show the person faint. Obviously, that's weird.
No.
But you're kind of like, well, what do we show? What do we do? What do we do?
Clement steps in front of the camera.
Josh whips up like a quick, like, we'll be right back slide. And like, then they, just something, again, adieu to being on camera. If you're doing live stuff, just be ready. Like, if you
be ready for the inevitable.
Be ready for the inevitable.
Murphy's Law.
With the slide, be ready to address the camera and be like, "Hey guys, sorry,
and
it's we're having some technical problems."
You step and dance for start doing a dance.
Everybody gets a sense of relief out of that, though.
Yeah, and I think it's okay. And I think another do is have a slide at the beginning and make sure everything's good to go. It's okay to leave a slide up for 2 or 3 minutes and put in the chat if there's a chat. Hey, we're starting soon or whatever. And then once you're ready, big deep breath, drop the slide and go into it.
Live.
And
you're live.
Go.
Yeah,
let it roll. Well, this is good stuff, man. This is good stuff.
This was fun to talk about.
This was fun to talk about. I really enjoyed it. And I think, again, it's all about practice, creativity, keeping your wits about you, not realizing, not being overcritical or, decisive on some things. Sometimes you do it and you scrap it and start over.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way content creation works, And I know we've done that before in the past. We're like, we don't like that.
Right.
Put it in the trash can. So, but yeah, this has been awesome, man.
It's been great.
It's been fun.
My final message is everyone's awkward.
Everyone's awkward.
I'm awkward. We're all awkward at first.
Clements is the guy at Alpha Monsters University.
Yeah.
Welcome to Scream Can Design. That's awesome. Listen, we definitely have to thank our sponsor.
Thank you, Shure, for making our excited voices sound even better.
Oh yeah, because they add a little bit of magic in every
there
microphone.
Is. Well, if you are delivering with a certain tonal quality or excitement, a good mic brings it out. For
absolutely.
Sure.
I wonder if they have Tinkerbell there.
Makes you feel like you're in the room with
mic.
the excitement happening.
And I think we've said this on other episodes. They're just the mics that we're using. They're just so easy to use, and like you could like plug in and you're just ready to roll.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like
you sound so
I know there's an app
crisp.
and I know there's ways to customize the settings, but I don't do any of that. I just plug it in and it works. So it's great.
You can visit Shure.com, check out the MV7 microphone. They just released it a few months ago. It's a fantastic podcasting mic. Josh uses it for a lot of voiceover recordings.
All kinds of stuff.
I use it for meetings, and it's buttery smooth.
Oh, I never knew I had a sultry voice until this mic.
Sultry voice. KMV 101. Froggy FM. It's like that. But yeah.
It's really fun.
Thank you, Shure. And again, listen, if you've never live streamed in your entire life and you want to get started, please go to BoxCast.com/GoPlan. Take a look at our free plan. It's for anybody out there who wants to become a broadcaster, who is looking to start, and you get 180 minutes. It's free. You get a 7-day, storage on it, so you can share that video out to people. If you're, a mom or dad doing a little.
Yeah, and you can stream right from your iPhone or your iPad.
Doing a little sports recordings. Those things are coming up. Sports is coming up, boys.
Yeah.
Sports ball.
I was going to say, there's probably a lot of sports going on. And
Absolutely.
just, if you want to stream something, and because grandma's in Michigan, or we're in Ohio, but grandma's in Michigan and she can't watch it, hey, stream with the Go plan, and it's, you'll be up and streaming in 5 minutes probably.
And it's free, and all you got to do is sign up. No money down, I promise.
No credit cards or anything like that. You just sign up for free, and you're good to go.
Josh will come to your house personally to say hello.
Oh, yeah, and then I'll critique you.
Josh will send you flowers.
Well, my friends, this has been the BoxCast podcast. I am just absolutely out of my mind stoked. We're getting better and better, boys. This is getting great. First and foremost, thank you to my co-hosts.
Yeah, Wade.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Gary, and we got Kevin Klutzer over here producing for us. Thank you so much. Again, have a great day and happy streaming.
Happy streaming.